It will show up in a couple of minutes, 15 seconds or so.
I think it's running.
Yep.
Okay. Amazing.
Waiting.
Yeah, I'm a bit brain dead, so let's see what's exciting that I can highlight today. Oh, I forgot to put in one last link. Sadness. Wait, let's go and find that tweet.
Live streams on.
Let's see. My co-organizer. Why like that? When they come? My God, what's this?
You have slides? Maybe you want to show your slides first?
Yeah.
You want to test your slides first?
I show first, then Bishop later you show your magic stuff.
Okay.
What should I do? Let me think. Should use this computer. Okay. Can. New window. Okay. Then slides. And then I should share screen. And I should share slides. Start to. Oh no. Wait. Okay, recording. Why my recording sang it? Yeah. This is what I should have been testing like 5 minutes ago, clearly. Hiya. Wait, let me adjust. Adjust. Oh yo. Okay, let's try to hide the Zoom controls. Amazing. Okay. What like that? What's going on? Too many computers. My slides are showing, right?
Yeah, I can see your slides.
Amazing. Okay. We chill a bit because like in theory it's supposed to start at like 7.
Okay. I have 2 minutes.
Vishak, you've been through this before, so it shouldn't be like foreign. No. Our lack of professionalism is astounding. Why the ratio not nice? Not good at this. Yes, alignment nonsense. No, should. Okay, then I should shrink. Hiya. My layout just messed up again.
Hello. Hi, Ed.
Hello.
Hi.
Ed.
How are you?
I'm great, except that now I have to figure out how to get rid of people's faces on my OBS recording. Hang on.
Okay. Should we
The
stop
level
the
of
video?
professionalism is astounding. Why? How do I control? I'm so confused by myself. Oh, okay, never mind. I think I'm gonna have to readjust the layout again when Bishop comes on because like this is terrible. Okay, that's that. Can lah. Doesn't have to be so nice. Okay. Hi Ed, how are you still in Australia? How's Australia?
Yeah, we're all on lockdown now. So
what, really?
yeah,
Like,
we've gone to stage
lockdown?
4. Gone to
Wait,
stage
wait.
4 restrictions because the numbers are going up again.
Were you locked down before?
We're on stage 3, but now we've gone to even more. My wife just said because white people can't follow instructions.
5 stars to your wife. I agree. No. Politically incorrect. Oh no, we are live.
Bloody white people. But yeah, we've gone to stage 4 restrictions, so we can't leave the house apart from going to get groceries, pretty much.
So that was kind of
Exercise for 1
similar
hour.
to Singapore's phase 1, right?
Right.
Right.
I don't know, but essentially, we've also got a curfew from 8 p.m. until 5 a.m.
Oh,
So if you're caught outside during those hours, you can be fined.
that sounds about right. Hey, we all also like that, right? Hello, those of us in Singapore, can you all contribute some verification?
Groceries. I mean, I think you can go out and you can get groceries and stuff. Yeah, but you can't like stand too close to people. And we have this thing called like safe distancing ambassadors. They'll go around and check on people. Hey, you're standing too close together. Are you all related and stuff like that? So
Rumored to be SIA employees, right? Lol.
yeah, there were quite a number of people. Actually, SQ stewardess were actually redeployed to hospitals to help the those that doesn't need so much medical attention. So that's also interesting.
Oh, I just screwed up my screen sharing.
Yeah.
Do that again. Hiya, so okay.
Are the restrictions only in Melbourne? I heard there's only in Melbourne, right? Or is it the whole of Australia?
Yeah, we've gone to stage 4 in Melbourne and stage 3 in regional Victoria, which is like outside of Melbourne.
So it's per state lah, so to speak, right?
Yeah, it's because I don't know, Victorians have suddenly managed to make everything worse. So yeah, I mean we basically haven't left the house pretty much in about 5 months. So yeah.
Right. Okay. Let's get going. I don't know if there's anyone watching YouTube, but never mind. I like the Zoom crowd because then we can like shit on Australian people who don't adhere to rules. Anyway, hello everybody. Hello everybody in the Zoom and may or may not human beings watching the YouTube live stream. Welcome to the 53rd edition of Talk CSS, the meetup that we never thought would exist for this long. So at this point, we're just winging it because it's like the writers only planned for 3 seasons. Now we are at season 5 and we don't know what to do with ourselves. So if you're on the social medias, we have a Twitter account where we sometimes tweet about stuff. If we are at Singapore CSS, if you are into the hashtag thing, you can use Talk CSS. Hello. Okay. Yes, you can peruse our $0 website hosted by GitHub. You can also consider subscribing to our newsletter, which basically is a kind of a text version of all the nonsense that I'm saying now. I just realized that I never pressed record. Ha! Okay, good thing this front part is not important. Start recording. Lol. This is how professional I am. Yes, we have a code on conduct. Even though it's an online event, we do not tolerate any harassment of participants in any form at all. We will invoke the wrath of Akong to kick you out. Shoutouts to engineers.sg. The venerable Mr. Michael Cheng, who is helping us with the hosting and making sure we are not as unprofessional as we appear to be. We always shout out Cheon, Mr. Lim Cheon, Swag King of Singapore, who has been immortalized in CSS Singapore CSS community for being the gentleman who donated the first batch of Singapore CSS stickers. Yes, shout out to Mr. Lim. We have friends because meetups are also lonely. Meetups also need friends. Our sister meetup, Singapore JS, almost probably longest running meetup in Singapore. The irritating horning is coming from me because sorry, I live in like the heartland of Bedok. Singapore CSS usually runs the middle of the month, so please check out their GitHub repo for details. We also have a best friend meetup called React Knowledgeable. They are amazing because they regularly run on a weekly basis. Even though they are like a semi-internal public event, the premise is amazing. Even though there's React in the title, I don't think they've had that many React focused talks. It's focused on the knowledge of React Knowledgeable, and you'll be fine. Anyway, every Friday, remember to tune in, hit subscribe on the React Knowledgeable YouTube channel. We are gonna see how high this number can go by the end of the year, because somebody thought that like, oh yeah, if we can get to 100 by the end of 2020, that would be nice. Like, what is this nonsense? How can you set your life standard so low? So yes, please just help with the joke and like push the number up. Host of the month is obviously interwebs, because if you were tuned into the pre-show live stream where we're having a chat with our good friend Ed, who is physically in Australia, and I have chosen this APEC globe emoji so you can actually see the continent of Australia on this emoji. Clearly, COVID is still very close to us. So everybody should just stay at home so that like healthcare professionals like my sister don't get more stressed than they already are. Please stay at home, wear your mask. This interface is terrible. Color of the month, our favorite segment. For those of you who have never joined Talk CSS before in your life and you're regretting this life decision, oh well, you can always log off. But if you're curious, what is this CSS color of the month? CSS has this thing called named colors. So in the digital world, you define colors with various hex codes or RGBA codes, basically codes. And it might be hard to understand what these numbers and codes mean. So you can use English words. For example, goldenrod. Just remember that the syntax is no space, no underscore, no dash, just stick those words together even though they are separate words. Goldenrod, this, if you use the word goldenrod in your color or background color, you have this wonderfully gingerish, like yellowish shade of goldenrod. Let's see if I have any fun facts about goldenrod. So goldenrod, actually, I believe someone go fact check this, comes from the plant. There's a plant called goldenrod, which according to Wikipedia, they are only pretty when in bloom. I'm like, that's such a superficial description. Like, come on, just because they are not in bloom and they look a bit like weeds. There's also, we cannot, such a judgmental description. But anyway, so when the goldenrod plants are in bloom, I think the flowers are about this color. There's a Crayola crayon with this particular name and shade, slightly lighter, that was created in 1958. So there's some history behind this. The first recorded use of goldenrod as a color name in the English language was in 1915. Goldenrod, everybody, CSS color of the month. So today's agenda, I will bore you all with HTML and CSS news for the month, and then with very exciting guest. So exciting that I didn't update my slides correctly, haha. But anyway, we have Vishak with us to share with responsive layouts using CSS Grid. Excellent. And because nobody wanted to speak, unfortunately, you have me. So you'll see how later. So let's, without further ado, I shall move on to the news, which I have opened in an incorrect browser. Okay, never mind, let's do this. I do this all the time, so you all should be used to it already. So all the notes are on GitHub, and this is what I'll send out during the newsletter. So it's been a long cycle, because it's like a 5-week cycle, just because the calendar worked that way. So Firefox 79, actually on the whole, we are going to get like a browser update, a Firefox update every month lah. So in 79, some developer tools updates, but since we are focusing on HTML and CSS, I guess the most exciting fix that came out of 79 is that in case those of you don't really use the target blank attribute on links, there has been a security vulnerability uncovered a while back, and the best practice recommendation was you should explicitly set a rel no opener on if you're using target blank. And now I think what 79 has pushed is that if you set target blank on a href or area element, it will implicitly provide that same behavior as if you had explicitly set rel no opener. So that's good. It's like a security fix. But I think in the grand scheme of things, for now, at least, we should still include that. And eventually we can probably deprecate this, but give the other browsers and your users some time to upgrade. From the CSS side of things, nothing much exciting, because most of their pushes this time was JavaScript, so I'm not going to cover. You can go and read the release notes. In other browser news, again, because 5-week cycle and Safari technology preview actually goes on a 2-week cycle, so they have even more updates. So they have since been bumped to version 111 from version 108 when we last met. 111 doesn't really have any CSS related changes, so we'll drop back to 110. 110 includes some bug fixes. For example, viewport units are now resolved against the preferred content size. I think the whole topic of sizing in CSS deserves a talk on its own. I will KIV that. And what else? For again, I highly suggest everyone, if you do a lot of front end or like web development or UI stuff, right, should give Safari technology preview a try, simply because whatever gets shipped in Safari technology preview is guaranteed to be in the stable, which is slightly different from what Canary does for Chrome. It's like sometimes some of their Canary features are really just to test it out, but like for technology preview, those are legit, and it's a very good browser if you want to try out the latest and greatest, because they're quite, I would say, garang in English means what? Daring in terms of putting in the new stuff. So it's always fun to try them out in Safari technology preview. Okay, let's move on to the specs. Actually, not. Oh no, sorry. Before that, right, I want to talk about this thing called open prioritization by Igalia. This link. Let's see if I can open it. So I think what a lot of people don't really know is that even though the Google, which runs Chrome, and they are like a huge company, right? The browser division isn't really that big. So there are some features that are outsourced to vendors that specialize in this. One of them is Igalia. Who the folks there, they do a lot of work like on browser features, and they are a member of the W3C, so very involved in everything. And what they have done is this thing called open prioritization. So they've actually released a list of items and like sort of like it's like a crowdsourcing of browser features simply because like people like browser engineers need to work on these features, right? And who's going to pay them? Someone has to pay them, right? And so it's an interesting experiment. In also offers them, right, the browser vendors and implementers a look at like what features are really in demand, so much in demand, right, that people are willing to throw money at it. I think it's a good idea. So because in that sense, right, you aren't restricted by the whims and fancies of just the big companies, right? You can kind of make your voice heard slightly bit louder. A lot like there's a FAQ here to like answers questions you may have. So yeah, can check this out. I think if you Google open prioritization, you should land here. And I really suggest everyone like take a look at this. It's really very interesting. On the spec side of things, not much action. I think this might be because there's a slew of things that are in discussion at the moment, because the CSS working group's gonna have their like face-to-face, I think have or had their face-to-face recently, and another relatively large W3C event called TPAC is happening soon. So I think that will resolve a lot of things, and we probably see a lot of updates coming out of that. So for now, lists and media queries were updated. I think I've talked about media queries so many times that like you all just look at the past recording. I never changed. So let's talk about interesting links. Because of the 5-week cycle, oh, so many links. So let's see. Let's pick a few. Oh, this is quite nice. So it's a video, but I'm gonna try to see if it loads. So Una Kravitz, who is a developer advocate for Chrome, released a video on 10 modern layouts in one line of CSS. I will not give the main point away, so can go and watch it. It's only 20 minutes and very, very, very interesting. I like this also. What does 100% mean in CSS? Always a big fan of the explainers of basics. And I love it that she put the answer up front. Spoiler, it depends. But do check it out. I think this is sometimes you always forget. Like we're like, hey, how come 100% no work? Probably didn't do it right. So as for cool code pens, all of these are cool. Like I'm gonna highlight a few of the more mind-blowing ones because they are very mind-blowing. Basically, the very 3D artsy one, I'm like, oh, what is this? So this one is a glass ball. I'm like, come on, this is a glass ball in one div, no less. So I'm like, amazing. The droplets are nice too, done by the same gentleman. I would say that the droplets are like an enhancement of glass, right? This one didn't even make the list because I hadn't had time to update it, but I'm just gonna show everybody. I'm such a sucker for art, but like, come on, this is a Vermeer, okay, a Vermeer CSS painting. Node.js, folks. And like, wait, is there even? Anyway, yes, we'll send this out in the newsletter. And so that's it. I'm not going to drag this on too long. I want to hand the time over to the highlight of this evening, which is Vishak's talk on responsive layouts with CSS Grid. So I'm going to stop share. Vishak, do your thing.
So I share my screen.
Yes, please. Then once you are done, right, you let me say action, because action means that I would have pressed the correct button.
Okay. Is my screen visible? I have to ask this question every time.
A secret weapon. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna read what's on the other screen. Wait, go back. Okay. I can press the start recording button now. Anytime, sir.
Okay. Let me just arrange my. Okay. Yes, I'm ready.
Go.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. And today we have a very interesting topic with us. I'm going to talk about responsive layout with CSS grids. We've heard about responsive designs, but how do we actually make use of CSS grids to make responsive designs? And I'm going to start by motivating about what exactly does it mean for us to make websites responsive. So I'm going to start with that and then go on to explain about CSS grids and how you can actually make it responsive without media queries, just using CSS grids. So, and there is a live coding thing at the end, which I hope I don't mess up. Anyway, hi everyone. I am Vishak. I recently graduated from NUS. I came here for a 1-year degree and then that is completed now. So yay. And before that, I was previously working as a front-end developer at Oracle in India, in Bangalore. And before joining Oracle, I thought Oracle only did Java and database stuff, but turns out they have a lot of other things as well. So I was working on one front-end project with them. It was a construction-based software. If you want to know more, you can ping me later. And the third and the most important point, I really love Mala Hotpot here, but I have a contingency that it has to be vegetarian because I am vegetarian. It's the only vegetarian food I can find in the hawker center here. So if you have any other suggestions, you should really ping me. And then you should tell me, go check this out. This place has good vegetarian food. Okay. Next. Here's a picture of me eating Mala hotpot, and I am proud to share that my chopstick level has reached the level of a peanut. So I have good precision now. Anyway, that's about me. Now let's get started with our talk for today. First of all, let's talk about viewports. Sorry. Let's talk about viewports. What exactly is a viewport? A viewport is basically the browser, right? And we have an interesting problem with this when we are working with our browsers. The size can be very flexible. When you open it on a phone, it's a certain dimension. When you open it on a desktop, it's a certain dimension. And in your desktop, you can actually resize it. You can resize it both horizontally, you can resize it vertically. So viewports is really important to understand for us to understand what responsive design actually means. It essentially means that we have to consider that we are looking at our website through a viewport and how we want our website to be shown to our users, what we want to communicate with our users. We really need to think about what kind of viewports are the users using. How will it look if a viewport is small? How will it look if a viewport is large? So we have to think about these questions before we go on to make responsive designs. So I saw this tweet yesterday from Mandy, and she says that who needs breakpoints anymore? Not this girl. She's got grid and flexbox. So I thought this was relevant to this talk because in this talk, we're going to use grids. We're not going to use media breakpoints or anything like that. So this is the new way. And so when we talk about viewports, we actually have 4 sides of a viewports, right? So we have the side horizontal viewport, but we also have the vertical viewport. So our users are going to be changing, like it could be anything. If it's a small screen, it could be shrunk in this way. If it's a large screen, it can be shrunk in this way. So we really need to consider how what kind of page our users are going to see depending on the viewport. Now, when responsive design came along a few years ago, we actually added a bunch of breakpoints and said, okay, when the browser is going to be less than 960 pixels, we want the layout to be like this. When the browser's width is going to be 320 pixels or less, it's going to be something like this. So that is a great step, right? So that made our website really responsive, and people, when they open it on their mobiles, they can actually understand what the website wants to communicate to them better. Before we had responsive websites, we have to scroll through the entire page. It was like peeping through a peephole. So now that problem is gone. So, but there was something missing still. So what that was is that we concentrated on making responsive design based on the horizontal width, but we didn't have really any kind of tool to make it responsive in terms of vertical alignment. Let's say this website, I'm shrinking it by 50% vertically. How do we want our website to look? Is it okay if our text is getting cut a little bit, or do we want to show like a big picture? So when the user lands on our website, it's really important, right? What we want to show them. We don't want to show a broken layout. So we didn't have tools for doing that kind of designs until we had viewport units, which we'll be talking about. And okay, now after all this, let's think about what a website actually is in a very, 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 very basic way. A website can be related closest to in the physical world to posters. So let's say tonight you are invited to a pill party and all these things is a poster, and let's think of it as a website. This could be a website. So, but what's really the difference between a poster and a website? The thing is, we can look at the whole poster at once, right? We don't have a viewport. We don't have to scroll through the posters. We have the whole poster just to look and experience it that way. But we don't have that kind of flexibility when making our websites because our screen size are variable. So we have these kind of different posters, but the thing is that we don't have to scroll through it. We can look at the whole poster at once. But this is how we've been designing websites. We take an A4 sheet using Figma or whatever design tool we take. We take an A4 sheet and we just assume that, okay, our page is going to be an A4 size sheet of paper. And then we distribute our designs to the front-end developer using a PDF. But we don't really, we didn't consider that, okay, the users actually have to scroll to look through it. They don't have the entire view. So this is the important thing I wanted to highlight. There is actually a difference between designing things inside and outside a viewport. So let's take an example here. What if Amazon.com was a poster? What if we opened Amazon.com and we see this whole bunch of things lined up like this? How would our experience of Amazon.com be at that point? And the guys at Amazon would have actually thought about this. What does it mean to craft an experience when there is a frame? We have only a certain amount of frame, 800 pixels at one time, and then the user has to scroll down to see the other things. What can we make so that the experience of scrolling through time look beautiful, communicate what they want to say, communicate what the website wants to say properly? So these are the things we should think about. And okay, there's something about storyboards that I wanted to share. So this is not a new problem for us, right? The film industry has actually been facing this problem. So they have a really small camera and they have to decide how and what kind of camera angle they want to shoot the movie at. So they actually quickly prototype things like this. It's called storyboards. And they quickly see, okay, let's say we keep it at this zoom at this angle. How is our movie's experience going to feel like for the user? They quickly prototype it, sketch it down, and then they decide if they want to move with it or not. Now the question is, can the same be done for web? Can we quickly sketch things, how it's going to look at different viewports and different scroll lengths, how it's going to look like to our user? Can we do that for the web as well? So that's a question. And let's see some examples now. So this is one example. This is someone made by someone called Jen Simmons. She is literally the best person you should follow if you like CSS. I think she actually works with Apple now to works on Safari. So she has really, really great content on YouTube as well as Twitter. So you should check her out. But anyway, the example here is that, so if you see this website, the first page is full of dirt, right? So they want to convey dirt, a secret weapon to fight climate change. Dirt. They want dirt to be, that's what they want to communicate with us. But let's say we open this on a mobile. How does the layout change? It's going to be like this. It's still going to be 100% of your screen. What if you open it on a very, very small mobile like Moto G or something like that? And then it will still be 100%. So the experience that they want to give, the feeling of the dirt is always there in whichever device you open it. So this is a really good way to make your website responsive. And here is another example. So this is a grid, and how do we want it to look when we open it in different devices? So as we shrink our grid, the whole layout is going to shrink, and the same with height as well. So whatever you do, you always see that kind of grid. So the experience of the website is really good. And here is another example, the Rolex website. Let's say I open this on a mobile. I still have the view of the video, right? So if I scroll down, the text automatically starts. So it's not like I have to scroll through the video because the video is like 800 pixels. They've made it into like fit 100% of the viewport. And then the Ferrari does the same. I don't know why, but the designs are really similar. So if it's a full screen, it takes the whole width again. But if it's small, it takes this whatever width is available to this. So this is a really good way of making your websites responsive. Now, let's look at how we can actually achieve this. We have something called viewport units, which allows us to design in response to the fourth side of the viewport. So basically, we have 4 properties for that: height, width, vmin, and vmax. Let's say we want to design a layout like this. We would give the content should be 100 VH. That means it should occupy 100% of whatever viewport is available, regardless of how many pixels it is. So the same for viewport height, viewport width, and vmin and vmax is an additional thing that you can play around with. And okay, so now that we've talked about viewport units and how it can help us make responsive designs, let's talk about CSS grids and how we can actually combine both of this and then make really good layouts, right? So I'm not sure how many of you guys have worked with grid before, but let me give a quick introduction as to how grid works. If you worked with the Flexbox before, grid is something similar, but it's in 2D. Flexbox is in 1D, but grid is in 2D. So let's take this example. Let's call this whole thing a section. We give a display of grid. It's a display property. So display grid and grid template rows 50px and 100px. And then we have 4 elements inside this. So when we specify grid template rows as 50px and 100px, what it tells is that the first row should be 50px, second row should be 100px. And the rest of the rows, take whatever the size the content is. If we want, we could have given 50, 100, 100, 100, 100, so that the others are 100 as well, but we can leave it as well. This is one of the simple examples. And we can do the same for columns as well. We give display grid template columns as 1FR, 1FR, 2FR. Now we have a new unit here. So this FR units is very specific to grids right now. I think it might come to other elements later, but right now it's only on the grid. And FR gives so much, it's like a superpower when you're making grids. So we have 3 elements here inside, right? 1, 2, and 3. So when we specify 1FR, 1FR, 2FR, what we're actually saying is, hey, browser, let's take the entire free space that you have and split it like shares. This guy should have 1 share. This guy should have 1 share. And this guy should have 2 shares. This guy should have 2 shares. So this is really like a superpower when designing with grids. FR units are really cool. Oops, you shouldn't have seen that slide. Anyway, how do I? Okay. So, okay. Now with that, we've seen about FR units. Let's talk about min-max. Min-max is another cool feature that is only available on grids right now. Quickly, how it works is that we can actually combine grid template rows and grid template columns to make a 2D grid like this, the one that you see here. We have 6 elements inside. So when we say min-max 100 pix auto, what does that actually mean? So this is the first row, right? 1, 2, and 3. We are saying that take a minimum of 100 pixels. Don't go less than 100 pixels. But then if the content is big enough, take the size of the content. It doesn't matter. That's what auto means. And in terms of columns, we're giving auto 50 pixels, 1 FR and 3 EM. So what does this actually mean? So this applies to the first column alone. We are saying that take how much ever the content needs, but don't cross 50% of the entire width of the element. So this is really fine-grained control, and we can design layouts with ease responsively when we use min-max. And 1FR basically says that whatever the remaining space is, take the entire thing. And 3 EM is a fixed width. We only want the last column to be 3 Ms. It's a fixed width, don't change ever. So we can make really cool layouts by combining min-max, by combining FR units. We can make use of viewport units. We can make really good designs without any breakpoints, without any media queries. So let's look at an example now. So we're going to try to recreate this quickly. So this is a website made by Jen Simmons as well, but this website is really special. Let me show you why. So this website is really responsive, right? So if I do this, it's gonna accommodate whatever width I have. But the specialty is that if I decrease the height, it's gonna accommodate that as well. So if I keep reducing this, the size of the image actually gets smaller. It doesn't really matter, right, if the image is big or not. The idea is that we have to, whatever the device is, we need to make sure that the name is there, and then the logo kind of a thing. This can be small. It doesn't matter. It has to be big. So it can go up to this, and then it starts to scroll. So we have a minimum width for the image. So this is a really cool way, right? Let's say we just want to keep this open in our screen and put it in the corner. We can have any width to it, any height to it, but still it's really responsive. How do we do something like this with what we just learned right now? I have a CodePen here, and there is absolutely very minimal CSS that I've written now. So it's just a header, and it's an image. I have an image. I haven't changed the alt. Please ignore that. Then I have a H1 saying I am a developer, and I have a navigation with a list saying about GitHub, YouTube, Twitter, everything like this, right? So, but now it's not responsive, right? If I make this really small, I have to scroll. And if I make it like this, I have to scroll again. So let's try to make this site responsive. Okay. So we have the outermost header here, and we want to make this header as a grid. Header, I'm going to set a display grid, right? And once this is done, this doesn't do anything still. But before that, let's set the height with a viewport unit. So height is 100 VH. So this will make sure that our height is always the 100% of whatever the viewport is, right? So after this, let's specify how our rows are supposed to be, right? So let's say we have, this is one row, this image is another row, this H1 is another row, This navigation is another row, and this blank space below the navigation is another row. Let's say we have 5 rows. How do we write this in grid? So we have grid template rows, right? Let's say, so we will have to give some space for this white space, right? Let's just give 1 FR, take 1 fraction of whatever the space is available. The second one, as we saw, the image is actually decreasing, right? So we can use min max here. So min max, take a minimum of 100 pixels only and take a maximum of 350. Don't go more than that, right? And then we come to the H1. We want this to be max content. Let me quickly explain what max content means. Max content means that take whatever space so that the line doesn't break. We don't want this line to break. If we had given min content, this line would break and it would kind of squish and take the smallest available space. But if we give max content, it's going to take the entire row. And the next one is the nav. We give a max content again. And we have some extra space below the place, right? So let's give 1 FR again. So what does this actually mean? Let's say, right. So let's say after we've taken all this space, min, max, max content, whatever the remaining spaces, split it between the fractions. That's what we want to achieve here. So now it's still not working because let's quickly inspect and see what's wrong. So we have our header here and oops, not this. It's not this also. Okay. Okay. So the problem is that we haven't actually placed the items inside the row. Let's do that now. Oh, wait, I think I found my mistake. I've been making too many JSON objects. Okay. I think the grid should be working now. Okay, great. This is a grid. Okay. So our grid is working now. So but the problem is we want some free space at the first FR, right? So we actually have the ability to place our elements inside certain rows and grids. Let's see how to do that. So the first one is an image. I want to place it in the min-max row, right? So I do grid row, if I'm not wrong, 2, and take a height of 100%. Okay. So by placing it here, it's going to take a minimum of 100 pixels, maximum of 350. And then we have the H1, have grid row 3, and the nav finally, grid row 4. Okay, we have some design with us now. What's happening? Okay, we have to justify contents. We need to center things, right? So let's justify it. Justify items center. Okay. Now we have things in the center. Oops. Oh shit, all my other CSS is gone. Okay, let me quickly write it again. img grid row 2. grid row 3, take the third row. Nav, you take grid row 4. Okay, awesome. Now let's see how our website looks like. Oh, I need to save it. Okay. Saved. Full page view. Okay, we have something now that is working, that seems to be working. As we make it smaller in this way, it is still responsive. And if we do this, our image is getting smaller and basically we've achieved what we want. Pretty cool, right? This is a very simple example, but then we can play around with min-max and we can play around with viewport units and make really cool things. Definitely check out this website. It's called labs.jensimmons.com. She has a lot of examples here, which are really cool. So just check that out. And that's all, guys. That's my presentation. I hope you liked it. If you have any comments or if you want to reach me, you can ping me at Twitter. Yep. That's
Virtual applause, everybody. Yes, please imagine the thunderous applause of the adoring audience. Yes.
Thank you.
But yeah, that's really, thanks. Hey, you must tell us when you are releasing new videos so we can promote the shit out of it.
Yeah, I have been very lazy and I haven't been doing much. So, but I will definitely tell you when the next one is out.
Sure.
Yes.
We are your professional, unprofessional, unofficial, official promoter.
Thank you so much.
Yes, what we are. Okay, let me press stop record. Wait.
Oh, but
Anybody got question or not? Actually, you never joined any of the live events before, right? Never mind. Even live, they look at you, you look at me, I look at you, you look at me, also no question. So much less online. But okay, anyway, I'll just put it out there. You can probably ping Vishak on Twitter. Or I don't know. Yeah, that's bleh.
If you guys are wondering where I hosted my slide, I did it on Canva. That's how I got the very, very cool things like this.
Oh, nice.
Like this.
Oh, Canva.
Yeah.
Later send me the link, newsletter.
Yeah, sure.
What else? Or you might be able to run into Vishak at some vegetarian mala place. Who knows?
Yeah.
Singapore not very big.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, let me press the stop recording button. Okay, let's see. Today now what time? Okay, 7:48. Okay, let's me anyhowly do this. Still don't know how to run Zoom. Hiya. Everybody should just go and watch the fried rice video. Okay, let me wait. How now brown cow. I need to share my screen. I need to share my Mac screen, not my Windows screen. Wait. Okay, Windows is OBSing. Do not disturb the OBS setup. Can. Okay. Share. Where's the share screen option? Where's my slides? Oh, okay. Sorry, everybody. Okay. I will. Yeah. Okay. So if can everybody can see, right? Can see this like shitty dark light on dark slides, right? Vishak, you are my only verification because you're the only person who got back. Okay, thanks.
You can see.
So much for this being a conversation. Okay, let me own self press start recording. Okay, so hello everybody. Mine because you don't want to talk ma. I asked me to talk, then I own self anyhow change mine. So anyway, this is going to be CSS for I18N. Why this talk? exist. I actually got give this talk before. It's just that like that's why this is like the more like less anyhowly slides, cause like But anyway, I gave this talk once, never get recorded. So I'm like, never record means there was no proof that I gave this talk before. So technically this is a new talk. Ha! But anyway, my vindictive personality crafted this talk as a passive-aggressive reply because I once heard someone say, "Oh, internationalization has nothing to do with CSS, what?" Wrong. Okay lah. No, actually not. I mean, it's not. Yeah lah, it's wrong lah. Got relevance lah. Come on. Anyways, so before we go into the details, we must first explain to everybody why is internationalization I18N. You must understand there's this thing called numeronym. Numeronym means what? Means number-based words. I think. Yeah. Anyway, I've created this handy diagram that help you count the number of letters in the word internationalization, just to prove that it is 18 letters. So if you see L10N, that's like localization. Yeah. Oh my God, I must get rid of this irritating Uncle Rogers accent. But so internationalization actually a bit broad lah, But if you look at the W3C definition, the guidance is you design and develop in a way that enables easy localization for specific audiences. So that's the broad one. And they call localization the broad range of customizations that includes but are not limited to like things like numbers, time and date, currency, symbols, graphical reference, and so on. So internationalization is the design, but like localization is like the actual customization. This is a broad definition. I think there's no set in stone one also, but I think you all get the gist. But what this implies is that internationalization is really more than just translating the content and then just like, okay, done. You're not done, because there are nuances to the presentation of your content that will affect the experience of a native speaker using your site. My favorite analogy to this is I once played this video game called Sleeping Dogs. Some of you may have heard of it, but it's like, I think Grand Theft Auto most people heard of. So Sleeping Dogs is basically just GTA but set in Hong Kong. So set in Hong Kong, if you've never been there, you know that like predominantly Cantonese speaking. And then sometimes like when you watch some like Hollywood movies, right, you're like, well, your movie budget is like $500 million and you couldn't hire one native speaker of Cantonese. Because I mean, okay, I may think of a language that I'm not familiar with at all, like blah 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 blah. Well, I don't know, Austrian or German or whatever. I mean, I don't know how it sounds like accurately. Like, so if someone says something in a pseudo German accent, I'm like, I guess it's okay. But like if you hear your own native language and you're like, oh my God, this person cannot speak the language. I think it's a bit similar in that like if it's right, nobody really notices. But if it's wrong, it's jarring. So that's the reason. That's the reason why. This is just like my passive aggressive 2,000 word response. But okay. This is a lame slide. What is CSS? CSS my cascading style sheet law. So it's actually used for you, the developer, to talk to your browser, to like kind of like, hey browser, do this, hey browser, do that. But like when browser started out, CSS not very powerful, so like a lot of things cannot do, right? But today, as Vishak has shown us, CSS is now like really quite powerful, can do a lot of things now. My favorite quote about CSS is by Lara Schenk, cannot pronounce, sorry. She calls CSS a domain-specific declarative programming language. It's kind of a nice, like very pleasant definition. But like, if you ever use a website like Chrome, which has translation built in. If you go to like a website that's not your default language, right? Chrome will ask you, right? Do you want this page translated? And then why you never ask? How come Chrome knows to ask you this? Like, how come Chrome knows that? Will know to ask like, maybe this person want the website translated. How come? How come? Or how come sometimes Chrome doesn't ask you when you land on a language that is clearly not your own? This is a website implementation issue. If the website never use the lang attribute properly, then Google also don't know how to ask. So important, lang attribute. And it's actually really very important. I don't know why this is not emphasized more. But like the W3C has a whole, because there are dedicated working groups for internationalization, right? And they do have very well written, comprehensive documentation, but I don't know, people just maybe don't know that they exist. So this is why they are trying to explain that why is this particular attribute so important. First of all, like language-specific behavior in browsers, like the example I just said, like use this attribute for various things, not only the translation thing, which I know Chrome does, but like there are other underlying logic that the browser will depend on the lang attribute if it exists to do. Things like font selection. Of course, there's also SEO. That's not really browser. That's search engine specific. But that's very important. Like my favorite misuse of a code is that if you have a website and Google cannot find, does your website really exist? Yeah, think about that. Philosophy. Of course, then there's spelling and grammar, translation, and also I know one of my friends tweeted a link that they actually recorded, but if you use a screen reader and the lang attribute is wrong, right? Oh my god, the accent is like, oh. It's actually to a point where it's funny, ununderstandable, but like funny. So that actually plays a factor to folks who actually don't use like the web like most of us do as a visual medium. They rely on like screen readers and text readers, right? That's quite important also. So the basics of how you use the lang attribute is that you put it on the HTML document. That's for the overall language of your document. And then if you have, this is very common, you would almost always have like mixed language content, then you would like surround that particular piece of text or content, you wrap it and then give that the appropriate lang attribute value. And so on the CSS side of things, not sure how many people know that this pseudo class even exists, but there's this thing called the lang pseudo class, and this selector is actually quite cool. Okay, in here we have this example. It's a mixed language sentence. So the markup is like this. You can see there's ends, and it's like Chinese, right? So the Chinese part, the second half of the sentence is a markup with a span tag for me to tell the browser that this bit is Chinese. So Chinese writing in and of itself does not have italic styles. So when you see this, right, this italic style, right, this is like, it's like, no, that's not how we emphasize text, lah. Let's put it that way. To emphasize text in Chinese and in Japanese as well, right? There's this type of punctuation. In Chinese, it's called 着重号. I will guess you translate it into text emphasis, because that's like what the CSS property is called. So okay, let's fix this first. Put it back to normal, like none of this italic nonsense. And then you can use this text emphasis dot. So just a dot on below. I think Japanese does it above, if I'm not wrong. So Chinese does it below. Use text emphasis dot, and you can do that. But what I want to highlight here is that the selector I'm using is the lang pseudo class. So I didn't have to explicitly put the Chinese language on the M. See, it's just a regular M, but the browser can recognize that it wants to select that bit. Because of the lang attribute, it recognizes that this line, this chunk of text is Chinese in that sense. And what I want to talk about text emphasis is that it's not really just for Chinese and or Japanese. Text emphasis can be quite fun. You can do funny things like triangle. I don't know if this is like punctuation in any language, but why not? I think there's a, I don't know, double circle. Is double circle a thing? Never research. I got double circle. I think you can also use string. Yeah, you only take the first letter lah. But you know, I'm sure there are like creative users for this. So that's kind of fun. So other ways to select like language specific, we can fall back to the more commonly seen attribute selectors. And attribute selectors quite versatile because you can sort of tailor how you want it to match based on like whatever additional symbols you want to give it. So if you just do lang ZH, then okay lah, only match anything with the attribute of lang ZH. But if you use this caret, I think it's called caret, maybe it's not called caret, like this pointy thing, whatever, it will match anything that starts with ZH. So you can ZH dash HK dash Han, like ZHONG, ZH123, also can, because it's pattern matching ma. Then if you use the pipe character, it will match ZH with a dash. Yeah, so anything ZH dash will go, as well as ZH itself. So some things to note if you want to use the lang pseudo class is that the three attribute selectors I covered just now, right? Actually, you just use the lang pseudo class, right? Settle already. Actually, if you're doing language specific, right? I really lean towards recommending using this lang pseudo class for everything. In terms of, because the logic behind how the browser passes the selector is different if you use the pseudo class versus the attribute. So if you use the attribute, right, it's a comparison against the attribute on the element. But when you use the lang pseudo class, right, the user agent actually relies on the document semantics for the comparison. So it's kind of a different bit of logic. And I mean, if you really want to, you can just create a normal CSS class or even ID for some, I'm sure there's some use case for it. I can't think of one now. Like you can create a class called ZH if you wanted to, but then you have to go and like one by one go and label your elements with those classes. It's kind of, you're not making use of the convenience. So if it's me, right, I would go the pseudo class route lah. Yeah, said that. So now that we know how to select the language that we want to style, right? There are quite a number of CSS properties. Like out of the like 500 plus CSS properties, there's a good chunk that helps us sort of like fine tune the presentation or content. So a lot of these are typographic related, of course. So I think the next few is mostly typography related CSS properties. So one of the things that CSS allows us to adjust these days is this full fonts problem, because browser actually very helpful. Like if you use web fonts, right, then sometimes the font, you only uploaded one weight, or you not enough money to pay for the other weights. Oh, so sad. Oh my god, no operating budget. Anyway, if the font doesn't have the relevant font file for a different weight, a heavier weight lah, or even a different style like an italic, right, browser will try to synthesize. They're like, I think this is what they want. Let me try and just like sort of tweak this regular font file to give the author the effect that he wants. The designers and the font designers specifically were like, if they are dead, they will turn in their graves because like, oh my god, you ruined the font. I know like maybe some people won't notice the difference, but it's about the craft, very important. So you can use font synthesis to just tell the browser, it's like, okay, I know you want to be helpful, but don't need. So you just say font synthesis none, and your browser will leave your font alone. Yeah. Then there are also glyph differences. So I try to blow this up as much as possible. Actually, I'm not sure if the Arabic script and the ligatures have this behavior as well, because I'm not familiar. I'm familiar with Han characters. So if the script you are using has Han characters, maybe Japanese or like Chinese, right? So there is the same. How should we explain this? It's the same character but a different glyph. So the one on the right is the simplified glyph. The one on the left is supposed to be the traditional Chinese glyph. And this is one of the things about Chinese writing, right? They are simplified and traditional Chinese glyphs that the character itself, right, looks completely different one. Like one is really like simplified, like really has less strokes. And then there are some where the character is still the same, but when you design the font, right, it's different. So if you look, the language is Han S for simplified, and then the one on the right is Han T, right? There are these tiny little differences. If you look inside, like if you can speak Chinese, right, the yue part of the character, the design is different. And the browser can pick up on this and present the correct glyph if you tell it to, if you tell it correctly. So okay, this, I know I said like most CSS properties are a bit general, this one very specific. This one just for, it says so in the property, it says East Asian. So it's just for East Asian. So this is, I won't dive into the Unicode part of this because that's actually very interesting, but very, very, very long-winded. I can just say that this particular property, right, lets you toggle what glyph to use. If you have to like adjust your text in a hurry. Why do I say this? Because they are Unicode code points that will only that represent only that traditional Chinese glyph, for example. But the versions that I'm using here are the type that where this particular property can apply one. So okay, the default is simplified. If I spell traditional correctly, I think you can see that the glyphs change. I just like doing this, sorry. So earlier when I said like for Chinese, there are specific glyphs that the character just looks different, even though it's the same character. Like we use it the same, it's read the same, it's just written differently, right? Just look at this one I highlight, right? It's just one of those. So the number of strokes is like significantly different. But anyway, this property lets you toggle that. And then so if you're using Japanese, right? Japanese, I think the way they split their what should we call this, character set up into groups is based on their JIS standard, Japanese Industrial Standard. Basically, it's like a national standard. Like, I think mainland China they call it Guobiao. So it's like a standard set of character glyphs that go into that set one. So for Japanese, you can actually toggle. Okay, my text is not Japanese, so it doesn't really, but it's like JIS something. There's a number behind it. I think there are 6 sets. So this lets you toggle that also. There's also font language override. This is specific to the style, the typographic conventions. I didn't have a good example myself, so I just stole this from the spec. So apparently, like Macedonian is not a very common font that people design from for, but like they have like similar characters to Serbian. So if you need the type of like, how should we put this, like the typographic conventions that apply to this particular script, right, this Macedonian script, you can use font language override and set it to the language that does have it, but the browser itself can still recognize that, oh, this is just stylistic. The language itself, this text itself is still in Macedonian, even though it's presented using the Serbian typographic conventions. So these font properties are really trying to give authors more tools so that they can create much better international experiences. Like as long as you're not using English, right, there are definitely things that you need to take care of. And now these are relatively new, right? It's in fonts level 4. So they're trying to push more and more of these properties that let you tailor to your mother tongue, like where necessary. I think this is a good thing. Text transform, actually, a lot of us use text transform. But this is just more like fun fact. Usually we use text transform for adjusting case or like capitalization. But there are very language specific case mapping rules. So like if you look, right, this is German. So the German asset, right, when you change to uppercase, the asset become a double S. And then Greek also got this kind of thing. If you look at the Greek vowels, they basically, the glyph, I think they're supposed to either, I don't know, lose their accent or something. But yeah, the glyphs completely change. And this is these are language specific tweaks that CSS will impact. Okay, even go back to Japanese, right? Japanese has this Ruby annotations. We see this more in Japanese than Chinese these days, but Chinese also use Ruby. It's like for annotations, like Hanyu Pinyin annotations on top of the glyphs, right? So if you do things like full size kana, then you also change, like you can use text transform for these things. I just like doing this like tricky thing live. Okay, moving on. Oh my god, I swear I'm more older than 5 years old. Okay, this may sound irrelevant, but got point one. You all just tahan me for a bit. Here there's a line of text. Pop quiz question. Don't have to answer to me. Answer in your own head. How many line boxes are there? The correct answer is 5. Why 5? Because you know the markup, right? If an element is one line box, the M, another line box, that's 2. Was it the third line box? Really there? Fourth line box? At all, question mark, fifth line box. 5 line boxes, okay? So now is gonna space, everybody happily existing on the same line. But if we blow it up, right, then now no space. How now? Your line box will break. So this break here, right, is known as a line break, and these lines are broken based on how the content behaves. So this is a soft wrap break. So when wrapping is enabled, the user agent has to minimize the amount of content overflowing a line by wrapping the line at a soft wrap opportunity. So soft wrap opportunities depend on language. English, okay, got space means you can break. If you use, for Chinese, right, every character also can break, but not all the time, because there are punctuation rules that like certain things cannot start or end a line also got. So there's a bit of ambiguity there. Thai, if you happen to speak Thai breaks are even more arbitrary. Not say arbitrary, but if you don't read Thai, then it feels arbitrary. So all these, right, are really very unique to each language. And the browser is actually smart enough to detect this, which I think is quite amazing. So there is CSS for controlling line breaks, all of these. I suggest if you are interested, because I would think most of you probably don't, but if you happen to be interested, .css talk by Florian Vivoal at .css. It's an 18-minute talk, so also not very long. Goes into detail about all these different line break specific CSS. Hyphenation is one of those things. I don't know, people don't really talk about it a lot, but this is one of the things that a lot of thought had to be put into it. And hyphenation behaves very differently also depending on the script. So actually this entire topic to me is very intriguing, but like if you're not interested, also never mind, like you do you, right? Just putting it out there, there are resources. But if you do not give a language attribute, you don't get automatic hyphenation because the browser needs to know what language it is before it knows how to hyphenate. Yeah, because language specific dictionary. So that's one thing to take note of. Again, highly recommend that talk. Okay, this is we move on now. We move on from word level to layout level. So my one of my favorite CSS property is writing mode. Writing mode, yeah. Default writing mode for the web is horizontal top to bottom. Very logical explanation. Web was born at CERN. Official language at CERN is what? English and French. English and French, how to write? Horizontal top to bottom low. So okay, this is a explainable phenomenon. This on the left, this is Mongolian, the traditional Mongolian script, not the Cyrillic one. So this traditional Mongolian script, right, is read left to right vertically. And then Japanese, Chinese traditional, then you can write it vertically, but it run right to left. So you can do this fairly straightforwardly using the writing mode property. Yeah, before this, I have no idea how you do this. I don't know, like, yeah, I don't know. Do you space? Do you just like space? I don't know. I cannot imagine. But now it's like legit. So this is in conjunction. When you use writing mode, you have this sort of like a complementary properties is to adjust the glyphs. So when you write Chinese character vertically, the browser knows that, oh, this is a language, right, that can be written both ways. So the browser knows that, okay, I will keep the glyph upright. So the default for Chinese characters, when you do vertical, right, it'll be upright one. But for languages that are, horizontal by nature, the browser will just rotate them because it really doesn't make sense to keep that upright. But in the event you do want it upright, for example, abbreviations, right? Then you just say, oh yeah, this bit, hi browser, just like, make my letter stand up, please. So you use text orientation, then you can make it stand up. Text combine upright is also useful. It's a useful typographic behavior because I say, like, NBA is kind of short, right? Then like, I can kind of squeeze it, squeeze into this like square character space. Then you use text combine upright. The full spec should limit this to 2 to 4. But for now, browsers just like, I think they got other priorities. They say, I just do all. So if you wanted to put basketball, browser will just squeeze like basketball into that space. Then it just looks very squeezy lah. So this one you use your own discretion. But yeah, if you are dealing with vertical text, you can use these things to tweak. Quite useful. Right to left languages. CSS should not be used here. This is a Unicode guidance and again, Unicode in and of itself, very fascinating topic. One of these days, right, I should get someone expert to come and talk about it. But the rationale behind it is because, first of all, there is a Unicode bidirectional algorithm, and so the browsers already implemented that, and the directionality, like, this is a lot of text, but the long story short is that CSS is fleeting. So there is a chance that CSS doesn't load or fails. The presentation of the content should not be reliant on something that is like, there is a potential that is unreliable. So you should not use CSS for bidirectional styling. I think my slides I got shared. There's this thing called the Unicode Standard Annex number 9 that it goes into a lot of detail. So the recommended solution is you use the dir, direction attribute, set it on your markup to define the base direction of your text. That's the safest, because if your HTML don't load, then you see nothing also. So there's no chance that it's displayed wrong, right? Then yeah, okay, so vertical writing, this is my spiel to people who don't like, yeah, vertical writing not applicable to me. But I mean, if you do this like more graphically, like poster stuff like Vishak talked about just now, vertical text in graphic design is like very common lah. Come on. So yeah, you can do this in web design. This particular example is Russian. It's Russian in like 1920s. So people have been doing this for years. So it's not like this like newfangled, new agey thing. Okay. Oh well. Yeah. Anyway, this is done in CSS. I mean, it's not great, but I think it's not that bad lah. So physical directions for writing modes other than horizontal can be a bit confusing, which like, let's say, okay, horizontal, right? You use top, bottom, left, right. That's great, right? Like if I want to give a bit of padding, I say what? I say padding left. But then if I like change the writing mode to something, then like, I want to give it some space. Pad what? Like here sticking too close. Pad what? Actually, I haven't given this talk in so long that I literally really don't know what I was supposed to do. So let's see, padding. Padding top do what? Okay, padding top, shift it down. Then, okay, no. Actually, I want to shift it away from the left. Wait, padding. It's not padding bottom, padding left. Yeah, but the fact that I have to think about this, right, it's very leceh. So physical directions of top, bottom, right, left can be a bit confusing, I would say. This is why we got like logical properties. I wanted that refresh. Layout problem. There we go. So there's mapping. Instead of top, right, bottom, left, the indicative direction is based on block and inline. So block basically just means the direction that your blocks of text flow, while inline is the direction where your letters go. Actually, this is easier with a diagram, which I don't think I included. But logical properties is something that is I feel very useful. Do I have a good example? Oh yes, I included the CodePen. Amazing. Yeah, so if like you use physical directions, right? Then you're styling things. If you're using top, left, bottom, right, every time you change the direction, or your code must change. Like top border, top color. Like if I wanted to keep my orientation of my border colors with respect to my text, right? This is all the crap that I have to do. Oh my god. But if you use logical directions, one code gao dim, no matter how you up, down, left, right, the code sorts itself out for you. So I feel that's a big plus point for logical directions. Yeah, okay, more IATN and fun stuff is lists and counters, because numbers are not only the traditional 1, 2, 3, 4 Arabic numbers that we are used to. So if you wanna be like have more variety in your OLs, got a lot of choices. Off the top of my head, I cannot remember, so I'm just gonna be boring. Lower Roman. Whew. So exciting. Okay, let's see. Oh wait, I do my favorite. Ha! Heavenly stem. This makes sense if you speak Chinese. Don't speak Chinese, you're like, what's this ridiculous? I don't know. 天助天干. God knows what lah. But like, yeah, got heavenly. I think there's a earthly counterpart. I just cannot remember. But it's very fun. Like, yeah. What's even more fun is that I think we are still in discussion. CSS, not CSS, like the working groups is like, should we cycle this or not? Because formally is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, no more already. So for now, browser implementation is just repeat. And then I think the discussion we had was like, should we just repeat, like start again from the first, or do we like append and do this? This is like still in discussion. So yeah, things like this, we have to consider when we are doing internationalization. Why did I include this? This has nothing to do with IA18N, but I just thought that it was interesting that you can do feast bus with CSS. I don't know nowadays whether people usually ask you to, for your job interview, they ask you to build a Twitter clone with React, right? So this is probably a bit of updated interview question. But if someone asks you do feast bus, right, you're like, I can do this with CSS. Yeah, can. Because got counters, counter property, quite fun. Yeah, amazing. I think that's about it. Yeah. So got some useful links. The bi-directional algorithm one really quite interesting. So if you got time, I can go and read. Yes. Okay, thanks. Bye. This again, the fact that I have a thank you slide, right, is proof that this was actually a more official talk than what I gave it credit for. So yeah, okay, I am done. I'm gonna stop share. 8:30. I think this is about a good time for me to say that yes, let's wrap up. SingaporeCSS.github.io/talk. If you got question, which I know you all don't, can just, I don't know, ask me lor when you see me, or like tweet me. Announcement time, those of you in Zoom, you all got announcement or like need to hire people, need to look for a job, need someone to deliver food to your cat, that kind of thing. Got not? Wait, are people still in the, wait, let me see. Okay, the 9, it's not 9 lah, because half of them are our own people. Like the 4 of you, why didn't you say not? Can deliver cat food. Ha! Oh yeah, where Yuanbao? Anyway, okay, go back. If don't have, then I'll do my standard announcement spiel lah. React Knowledgeable happening this Friday. The talk very interesting. You must watch, okay? Cause like this is live stream on YouTube. And remember, hit the subscribe button. Like I mentioned just now, 100 is such a poor target, such a low standard. No. Now already, people already 200 already. Like just like get your friend's YouTube account and go and click subscribe. Then you're like, I'm value adding to your life because I'm giving you knowledge. Again, React Knowledgeable, focus on the knowledge part of it. So yes, Friday 6 p.m. On time, on target. People very professional one. This one, just before this meetup started, right? I go and test the code. It still works, guys. Got discount. So web directions code is this long-standing web conference run out of Australia. They are going remote lah because, like, you know, as Ed said also, I don't think there's any shot of Australia having a live conference this year. Fully remote, and I think they're trying to do the international thing, so they have like Southeast Asia friendly time zone, which is kind of nice. So you use Singapore CSS got discount. I mean it's not very cheap. So if you can get your company to pay like through your training budget, whatever, do it. Cause their speaker lineup very good one. Hey, I think the handsome gentleman's face who keeps popping on my slides, former former active Singapore CSS organizer, forever co-founder Singapore CSS, Mr. Chris Leonard, might be speaking. I don't know, maybe. Yeah, but yeah, I can consider. Got code, got discount, you know, whatever. Wait. Okay. What else do I want to say? Actually, nothing already lah. Okay. Wash your hands. Don't touch your face. Don't touch other people. Okay, thanks. Bye. That's it. Yeah, I can log off now. Yes. Let me go and stop the live stream. End stream.